but I gave them the foundation for them to do it without me. But also the ask to do it with me.
Welcome to Unstoppable Podcast with Harry Sardinas, inspiring conversations with influential millionaires, investors, thought leaders, entrepreneurs who are making a massive difference with their innovative products and services, and sharing the challenges and wisdom of how they sold their first million.
How is involved in the business of law firms? I hear, correct me if I'm wrong, that before in United States, you had to be a lawyer in order to run a law firm, and it came to my attention that there are some places now that you actually don't need to be a lawyer in order to run a law firm. Um, which is bring a second complexity to the equation, because those ones, if they are not lawyers but they are good entrepreneurs, they can get ahead, um, versus lawyers that they are entrepreneurs, because those ones that they are entrepreneurs, they know about sales, they know about marketing, they know about all those things that, not that lawyers don't like. It's like, you're lawyers for a reason. It's because you love what you do regarding the law and things like that. Whether running a law firm, you have to be a lawyer and an entrepreneur is already too much. But I hear that now they are allowing people in some places that they can run law firms without being lawyers. Can you explain a little bit on this? Is that correct? Is it not? Or how
Well,
how
from
how it works?
what I believe is it's only the District of Columbia, Washington, D.C.
Mm.
Um, I could take both
So
sides of this argument.
what do you hear? What do you hear that in Washington D.C. you don't need to be a lawyer to run a law firm?
Yes,
Oh
and
wow, only in
but
Washington, right?
I might be wrong. It might be another jurisdiction,
Mm.
but the
Mm.
only time I've encountered this was somebody who said to me, "We can share in referral fees because you don't need to be a lawyer in DC." But it brings a lot more complexity because you can't in Florida. And in Florida, we have an ethics department that you call. It's a hotline, which is a wonderful service. You call them and say, "Hey, Joe Schmo is not a lawyer. He's runs a law firm in DC, wants to hire us for this. What can we do and what can we not do?" And they're amazing. They have answers to this, but the bottom line is we don't work with them 99% of the time. Now, if I had to defend the other side, if let's say they asked me to lobby the Florida bar as to why non-lawyers should run law practices, I can tell you that lawyers make just as bad financial decisions as doctors because their egos get in the way and they think they're so smart because they succeeded so many times throughout life academically that they don't realize the complexities of running a business. And as an entrepreneur, the hardest thing of running a business is knowing how to deal with personalities, knowing how to deal with egos, knowing how to invest money the right way rather than just, business 101 is keep expenses low. But in a law firm, you don't necessarily succeed by doing that because you don't have the right staff, so that you're stuck doing jobs that you can delegate to, and you're not going out getting new business,
Mm.
and you're just working your tail off for status quo. So yeah, there are reasons why I think it would make sense, especially in personal injury law, because that's, I think, out of all areas of law, that's the one area that you could franchise because
Mm-hmm.
the biggest expense is marketing. And
Mm-hmm.
if you look at every billboard in South Florida that
Mm-hmm.
represents a lawyer, it's a personal injury law firm. So,
Mm-hmm.
under that area of law, I think it would be extremely important and helpful if you had a non-lawyer run the business. But the challenge here is, I don't think it will ever be accepted in Florida, is that you need somebody who can act in the client's best interest. That's the first and
Mm-hmm.
foremost rule, fundamental rule for lawyers. And if you're running the business and you don't have a license to practice, you can't do that.
Even how do you define yourself? Entrepreneur first and lawyer after, or lawyer first and entrepreneur after? And why?
Entrepreneur first, because if I was a lawyer first, I would find work elsewhere.
Oh, that's a great answer. Um, what are when you become an entrepreneur, there are things that you like to do, and there are things that you don't like to do, right? That's
Yeah.
the things about being an entrepreneur that, especially when we start the business, we need to wear all the hats, right? So
Yes.
when you started to grow your business, and as an entrepreneur, how you embrace things that you don't like to do, but you have to do. For example, let's say that sales and marketing. Let's say that you don't like it to do it, but at the beginning, you have to do it yourself, at least because you need to learn, as entrepreneurs, we need to learn the basics of how the arms of our business works, because otherwise, how we're going to hire people, how we're going to give them target, how we're going to measure how good they do in the job. So when you start to grow your business, which were the tasks that you didn't like to do and still you have to do it, and how you overcome that challenge?
This might be a little unique answer. I don't think you probably ever heard this answer before, but it's when you asked that, went right to the core of who I am. It's hard being a lawyer and an
Mm-hmm.
entrepreneur at the same time.
Absolutely. I'm aware of
So
it.
when I was a stockbroker before I was a lawyer, it was cold calling 200 people a day.
Oh,
But
wow.
once you got them as a client,
That's intense.
it was intense. But once you got them as a client, it wasn't about billable hours because the hardest part of the job was getting the client, convincing the client, especially I was 21 at the time. I looked like I was 12. I wouldn't invest in my 21-year-old self, but convincing somebody to do that. Once you convince them to do that, you only had about 10% of your job requirement left with that individual. The hardest part of the job and the most time you spent every single day was cold calling. As a lawyer, you don't cold call, but you put money into the foundation of your
Even because it's
business.
not allowed. It's not allowed
Yeah,
cold calling, no?
exactly. No, it's not.
Yeah, on top of that,
But
it's
you
a highly regulated industry. You cannot do
exactly,
as a law firm things that you can do in other businesses, like cold calling, this and that. So
exactly, exactly.
on top of that, you have to be very careful, right? It's highly regulated
But you
here.
still put the effort in to get the new clients. So you could spend hours and days trying to get new business, but whether it's seminars,
Mm-hmm.
advertisements, networking meetings, and you finally sit down with somebody and you get them to write you a check. And the
Mm-hmm.
hardest thing is now you have to do the work.
Yeah.
So as a stockbroker, 90% of the job was getting the work. As a lawyer, 25% of the job is getting the work because there's so much work to get done,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to learn how to balance those two because without one, you don't have the other, and vice versa.
Yeah. So, tell us a little bit more, if people are in love with this conversation, how people can find you, even how this process works,
The easiest way to
and
find
what you
me
guys
is
specialize.
we specialize in estates trust, asset protection. If you own a business, we'll protect your wealth. If you're an employee, we will too protect your wealth, just through different, more basic strategies. We do tax strategies as well, because it's not what you make, it's what you keep. And
Mm-hmm.
you could find me at turklawgroup.com. That's Turk lawgroup.com, and Turk Law Group on all social media handles. My offices are in Boca Raton and West Palm Beach, Florida. But we do have attorneys admitted to practice law not only in Florida, but in New Jersey, California, and New York.
Oh, wow.
And
Even, can you tell us the title of your book and where people can buy it?
it's called Asset Protection by Design. and they can find it on Amazon.
Okay. Author Evan
Or
Turk, right?
author. Yeah, I used my initials, EW Turk. Apparently, I thought my whole life I was the only Evan Turk until an internet search, and then there was someone else, a New York Times bestselling author, by the same name. So I went
Wow.
by EW Turk. But sometimes people cold call me and ask for Turk. So, but it's EW Turk, Asset Protection by Design. The easiest way to find me is online on Amazon. Just type in EW Turk or Asset Protection by Design, or go on my website, Turk Law Group. The book's right there. And if you send me an email, I might be inclined to send you a free copy.
Why inspired you to do this challenge about writing this book? I wrote several. Well, I wrote several. No, ghostwritten, yeah. Work with ghostwriters to produce my books. How was the challenge to deciding for you to write the book, and when do you decide that is the moment to let it go? Because in my experience, every time you write in a book, you read it and you say, "Wow, I can do it better. I can do it better. I can do it better." But there is a time that you need to let the book go. How long took you to write this book, and when do you realize that was the right moment to just let it go?
Yeah, well, the saying by Voltaire, enemy, it's perfect is the enemy of good. And I basically gave myself a timeline of 4 months, and I gave myself a 3-hour daily allocation. I got up a little bit earlier, and I went to the office before I looked at emails, took phone calls, anything. I had to physically get to the office, so I got there around 7:30 to 10:30, and I didn't do it 5 days a week. I did it probably 3 to 4 because life happens.
It's a lot of work, yeah.
And I didn't write the longest book. I wrote the most effective book, meaning, if you could get, and this is how I run my law practice. If you could get to your destination in less traffic, in less time, then why not do it that way? And the same thing with the book. No one wants to read a long-winded book. It's not like this is going to win the best-selling book for fiction. This is something that people need to know, get to the answers right away, and understand it. So the way I wrote it was how I learned in law school was I would state a fact pattern and use examples, real-life examples of that fact pattern so people could understand the context of what I was saying. So a lot of it was examples and explanations of those examples, and it made the book a lot easier to write. I chose more basic topics because if they need more detailed topics, that's why they need to hire me, right?
Yeah.
But I gave them the foundation for them to do it without me, but also the ask to do it with me. And but it's getting a client who has looked at the book or at least read a chapter of it and said, okay, before our next meeting, here's my book, read chapter 5. And that's been exceptionally
Amazing.
helpful.
Absolutely.
Follow us for more interviews with world's most influential, audacious entrepreneurs that overcame challenges and adversity, providing you with the blueprint of how they sold their first million so you can grow your business exponentially.